What up, everybody, and welcome to Baz on Blades. My name is Baz, and I talk about blades, and today we're going to feature another fine product from Steel Wheel Knives. What we have here is the Will Arcturus flipper, and this is the mini version, and that's going to put you at a 3¼ inch blade length and 7¾ inches overall. There is a full-size version of this knife, and it will be in the 3¾ inch blade length and 8.9 inch overall size range. So guys, Steel Wheel sent me this knife. I want to say thank you to Paulina at Steel Wheel and to Steel Wheel, the company itself. And this is going to serve as sort of a disclaimer. I did get this product for free, but this is going to be a very honest review, guys. Very honest, okay? And you will see that in the review. I will stake my reputation on that. And then, surprise, surprise, Baz on Blades is not even going to keep this knife. He's going to throw it into the next giveaway, and it is looking like we're going to have quite the Steel Wheel prize pack in that. And that's great because these are really high quality knives. So I did source the price of this knife. The mini version, I'm going to use Blade HQ as my price source. The mini version at $55.24. The large version at $59.49. I think it's a reasonable price for what you are getting if it is what you are looking for. This is a super extreme competitive market, the budget arena right now, the most competitive and on fire niche of the cutlery world, in my opinion. So let's take a look at the packaging real quick on this knife. We're gonna sort of set this down right here. I'm gonna move that prop. That's to help cut down on glare. We changed up the lighting a little bit here at Baz on Blades. Let me know what you guys think about that. So it's Steel Wheel packaging. You get the brown box with the silk screen information on it. You're going to get your model sticker with the barcode and information, model number for this particular version of the Arcturus. This is the OD green mini version in a satin blade finish. Over that cardboard box is the gray Steel Wheel cardboard slip sleeve. Now let's get some numbers out of the way on this knife. It is a 3¼ inch blade length. That's slightly greater than 8 centimeters. Your blade stock thickness is 135 thousandths of an inch, or 3.4 millimeters. Your blade width at the widest, pretty much 1 inch exactly, or 27.5 millimeters. Your handle length, 4.5 inches or 11.5 centimeters. Your handle thickness, right in a sweet spot at 509 thousandths of an inch or 13 millimeters. Handle width at the widest, 1.14 inches or 29 millimeters. So this knife is not as wide as it looks, guys. It is fairly compact. Your closed width, pretty much the same, guys. Look at how that blade nests down in the curvature of the handle. That's a great design as far as EDC goes in that respect. That's 1.3 inches wide or 33 millimeters. Overall length, like I said, is 7¾ of an inch or 19.5 centimeters. Stop pin diameter, it is a capture stop pin. It is about 115 thousandths or right at 3 millimeters. Behind the edge thickness, man, guys, we are getting so spoiled with these companies. They're doing thinner and thinner grinds for these EDC type knives. This one, I hit it in 3 spots, averaged it out, 20 thousandths of an inch. Pretty much the perfect spot for a good EDC, thin enough to be slicey with a tall flat grind, but enough steel there to be supportive of the edge also. Your handle to blade ratio, 0.72. Your weight, 3.28 ounces or 93 grams, guys. So we're right in what is considered a sort of a sweet spot for EDC with that 3¼ inch blade and slightly less than 8 inches overall length, and then a lightweight at 3.28 ounces or 93 grams. The knife feels right. in your hands. It doesn't feel too heavy. It doesn't feel too light. This particular version, it doesn't feel too big. It doesn't feel too small. It's really, in the hand, it is just as appealing as it is to the eye as far as the design goes. Now, this thing is bladed in D2 tool steel, which is the basic darling child of the budget arena right now. Just about every company is using D2 pretty much as their premium steel for their budget knives. And you know what? That's a decent idea, guys. You know that I'm a fan of D2. I'm not a uber fanboy. I know it has faults because it is a very basic tool steel. And it's not a stainless steel, it's not a carbon steel, it's not a modern complex tool steel, but D2 really gives all it can give up to its point. So I really like D2. It's semi-stainless, easy to take care of, it's chock full of carbon and vanadium, so it tends to be a very toothy cutter with all those vanadium carbides along the edge. It'll take a sharp edge, which it'll hold a reasonable amount of time, but its working edge it really holds on to because you are into those big sawtooth carbides along the edge, and they do so much for D2. In that respect, it's a very good, simple tool steel. In your handle, you've got G10 slabs. And I'm going to say right now, guys, if any of you have ever owned a Medford 187 series knife, I used to own a 187 ramp nose, great little knife from Medford. And this has the same type of feel in the hand to me, other than this is two slabs of G10 and it doesn't have a titanium frame lock on it, which the Medford knives do. But it has that same sort of feel for its size, except much lighter weight. These are thick G10 slabs, guys. They're not little thin pieces of G10. And they're basically unsupported by liners. Now, there is a liner lock, but it is not a full scale on this side. It is a partial scale, guys. It's a little swoopy teardrop sort of shape that follows the body lines and gets screwed in with these points right here. In fact, let's see. Well, I'm ill prepared for that view, guys. Okay, you can see it there, I think. So it's not a full liner, guys, yet this thing feels strong but lightweight in the hand because G10 is so strong at that sort of thickness. Your small parts are stainless in your screws. You do have what I'm assuming are anodized aluminum standoffs here and some steel pins for sort of a weird way to mount a lanyard. Stainless steel and very interesting pocket clip, guys. Look at the way that they have done this pocket clip with the mounting portion of the pocket clip. That's very interesting to me, and I don't know, guys. I think that's almost a solution in search of a problem type of thing. Now, it is because the screws have to be in line on this narrow design at the butt end. I totally understand why they did this. They still wanted to have the mounting strength of a two-point mount with two pieces of mounting hardware spread out, so that keeps the pocket clip from rotating this way as well as moving laterally or in either of these directions. I don't know the technical term, guys. I'm not an engineer, but you know what I'm saying. It's a very interesting design, and you know what? It's pleasing to the eye if you are if you have any interest in things like that. It's a novel solution, guys. I actually appreciate, and the pocket clip's not bad itself. So, I mean, you're looking here, guys, D2, G10, liner lock, stainless steel parts, phosphor bronze bushings, on the pivot, that's what you're looking at. And, you know, at $55, some of you are going to say, you know what, Baz on Blades, if I'm going to go with D2 and G10, I can go over here with so-and-so or such and such because they're doing ball bearing pivots and all of that at that price. And you know what, you're totally right, guys. If I wanted a ball bearing pivot knife, I'd buy it. But for what this is, as far as a phosphor bronze bushing knife, Steel Will has that down to an art as far as flippers go, guys. Look at that flipper tab. I don't know if if Bird and Frankie have reviewed this knife yet, but I already hear Frankie in my head with her little bird stuff with this thing with its beak right here. And she's like, meh, 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 it's a little birdie bird, 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 bird. I know she's going to be that because that's what it looks like to me. It makes me think of a parrot. So I know she is going to think that. It's a great flipper, guys. Go back to talking about the flip in action because we were looking at the flipper tab. Great flipper. Steel Will is on the game as far as flipping action goes, guys. And let's go ahead and talk about action on this thing, get that knocked out. The flipper action is fabulous. It's a crisp, medium hard detent, guys, just perfectly dialed in. The bushings are smooth. They're phosphor bronze bushings, guys, in a budget knife, but they Steel Will does that very well because they do so much of it. That is the majority of their folder product line, if not all of it, is on phosphor bronze. And you know what? Even if they're just doing that to buck the market trend, I applaud them for it. I go for it. You know, you don't have to do bearings to do a great knife. I will put that Steel Will Plague Doctor that I reviewed recently, I will put it up flipping action against any bearing knife. It flips just as well. Now, it may not close like a bearing knife, but as far as flipping action goes, it had world-class flipping action, and this one is very nearly like that. It's very good. Now, closing action, my particular version or example of this knife wanted a little more pivot tension in order to center up. That could be a result of one of these pieces of G10 may have a slight warp in it, guys, and that will cause it to be a little harder to center up. And so my example wanted a little more pivot tension, but you can see it's not affecting the flipping at all. It just affects the closing. It's not a shakedown closing, guys. It's a manual closing. I'm gonna be straight up with that. Now I've got three other Steel Will flippers in-house right now, either giveaway knives or in my personal collection, and they are all better than this knife, smoother, a little easier. So it is just like everything else in the budget arena, guys. There is some variation within product lines and brand lines. And when you're talking about that type of action and you go into a bushed action rather than a bearing action, it becomes a little more critical of those tolerances. It doesn't take very many thousandths, guys, to knock that centering out of line. It doesn't take it at all, and it's amazing that we get such high quality knives so consistently at this price point. But as far as flipping action, it is excellent, guys. The lockup is solid. The centering on mine is good, even though it wanted a little more pivot tension. I just can't argue with the action on this thing, guys. Steel Will does the best phosphor bronze flippers that are on the market, I think. I mean, you'd have to spend a lot more money for a phosphor bronze bushing flipper for it to be any better action than what Steel Will does. They truly understand how to set these knives up. Let's go to fit and finish on this knife, guys. We're going to get up close here with the blade and do the best we can with our lighting, guys. And look at that grind. Look at the way the light reflects across the grind. You don't see any imperfections. It is a solid grind, guys. They are doing very well on their grinds. I mean, they're doing very well. Kudos to Steel Wheel for the quality of the grinds they're doing. They're clean, they're straight, they're even. They're finished well. I mean, even the edge grind on this is really, really good, guys. The secondary grind. And like I said, it's 20 thousandths behind the edge in this real high, basically a saber grind, guys. It's a flat grind up to a flat blade section here. And then it's got this swoopy, sort of swedgy, mid of the blade, swedgy sort of look. And this straight facet drop here on the basically what is or could be considered a trailing point type of blade, as the perceived center line of the knife, the tip of the blade does rise up to or above that center line, which is a qualifier for a trailing point, I believe. You know what, guys? Look at all that belly. It's a belly from tip to termination of the edge, and that's a utilitarian blade right there, guys. This forward choil, I'm not going to choke up on it and use this choil, but if I want to, in a regular grip, sort of hook it where I'm pulling back, you know, almost like I'm hooking onto a trigger face on a pistol, I can do that. I don't see any reason to do that. But it is a great sharpening tool, and if you look at the reflection in the plunge of the grind here, you can see that it is, if it is not quite far enough out this choil, it's right at it, guys. I don't think there should be any issues with resharpening here. If you do get any flare, if you were to radically modify this edge profile to thin it out, you might, when you start widening this bevel, get into the slightest bit of flare, but I don't think it'll be any issues, guys. So fit and finish on the blade, I mean, even the markings, you know, the steel wheel and the model number and name and all that, you know, are great. The finish is great. You do have a section of jimping up here that is moderately effective. I like it. You know, it's a little narrow in between the tops, maybe, or maybe they're just buffed off a little bit too much. It could be slightly more effective, but it is effective. It's not junk jimping. It's not there just to look good. As far as that goes, it's a very subtle looking jimping, but it is effective. Let's get into the handle here. We're going to knock out the hardware first. It's done in this bead blast sort of finish, and it matches. The small screws match the big screw, guys. Match the pocket clip. I love it. I love that. I remarked on that with the black wash finishing on the Plague Doctor that I reviewed, and I very much like that they're getting these finishes very close and uniform as far as their hardware goes. Very much like that. The G10 is machined well, guys. G10 apparently is just a joy to chuck up in your modern multi-axis CNC equipment and machine away. You know, I've ground G10 on the grinder as far as using it for handle materials, and you know, modified G10 in factory made knives for comfort. It's very easy to work with, guys. So I mean, the machining is, it's, you know, it's there, guys. It's as it should be. I don't see any machining flaws at all. So it's just overall such a uniform sort of feel to this knife, guys, except for these standoffs. And that was you know, the initial photos I had to pick my colors and size were just straight on shots of the knife, and I didn't know that it was going to have the colored, the anodized aluminum backspacers. You know what? I like blue, but you know, with OD green, guys, I think we're sort of stretching to say that they match. I mean, we get used to them because that's one of the popular ano colors on the market, and everybody uses blue, whether it's on the aluminum or titanium or a coating on steel or whatever. They match that blue up with everything, and then while I'm not a fan of it on the OD green, it doesn't look bad. You know, it does give it a pop of color when you do get that view of the knife. And they're well done. I mean, the anode looks good on them, guys. Fit and finish on this thing. I mean, look at, it's just, guys, it's just fit and finish is good. That's what I've seen with the steel wheel products that I've gotten. They're given a very solidly made, this company, its manufacturing team. I'm going to tell you right now, I work in manufacturing. I have worked in manufacturing for 25 or 30 years. I can recognize when a product comes from a company whose manufacturing team actually cares about the product they make. And that is a rarity in manufacturing, guys, in factory work. Very much steel wheel has that feeling in their product that they care how their product is made. And it shows, guys. It shows in not only in the action, the designs are great. The fit and finish is good. I mean, it's great, guys. Maybe you want a little bit bigger version of this. Boy, I wish they made a bigger version of this knife. Well, they do make a bigger version of it. They already thought about that. For all the big knife guys that want it, that 3 3/4 inch version. And I think that maybe if the black G10 handle versions have anodized red standoffs, I think, guys. I wish I would have got a black version, but I didn't. So, this is what we got in hand right here to look at. So, size-wise, you know what you're getting. This is sort of in that PM2 type of EDC medium-sized knife. It's sort of in that weight range at 3.28 ounces or 93 grams. The 3 1/4 inch blade length. I mean, you're right in there as far as that little niche within the knife enthusiast world. The EDC sort of knife. I think this is a good example of what you can get in a phosphor bronze bushing modern folder. It feels substantial in the hand due to the thick G10, guys. I mean, I can squeeze on. I've really got to squeeze on that G10 to get any flex out of it at all. And that is wholly due to the G10, not this liner lock, because it is, it's just a narrow piece that comes here. In fact, the liner doesn't even go up under the pivot here. There is an actual keyway, puzzle key, that is machined inside of the G10, and then there is a big, heavy stainless steel insert. Now, I took this knife apart. I wish I would have done it on video, but I'm not going to take it apart right now. But it is a puzzle piece sort of piece. I took it apart when I first got it, and I was tuning it up and pulled those pieces out. I polished the face of them. I polished the both faces of the bushings and everything and cleaned it up. And it's an interesting build, guys. Maybe somebody will do a disassembly video of these knives, and maybe you can catch it a little bit down in here. The way that it's put together, I don't know, guys. I've cut back so far on my lighting to cut down on glare and just flash and all that you can't really get down in there and see it too awful good. I'm pretty impressed with this knife. And, the only thing that I wish is that my particular version may have been just a little bit less particular about pivot tension as far as centering it up. But it's perfectly centered. It flips perfectly well, guys. It's just not going to shake down sort of closing. Still is very smooth. It's very smooth. Even before I polished the bushings on it, it was really smooth. They didn't have any real bad burrs on them. They're nice, thick bushings, guys. We're not talking about some little super thin piece of phosphor bronze. They're nice and thick and substantial. This knife will break in very well, guys. And I think that if you are looking for this type of size of knife, maybe you want to grab something that's on phosphor bronze bushings just to have it. You want to enjoy that different sort of feel. You want an EDC size knife that's pretty lightweight but has an interesting look to it. Now, I've set that down, guys. Take a look at that knife. It doesn't really look like a utilitarian knife, but it is. The grip on the handle is, in my medium-large hands, just perfect. There's enough handle to fully get a 4-finger grip on, but it's not so much that it's sticking out past your hand. It is a sort of a Glock 19 compact type of build. Big enough, but not too big for a compact, usable knife. And like I said, with all that belly on the blade, utilitarian use. Very pointy tip here, guys. Instantly pierces with little to no effort. It slices very well. Slices very well. So the utilitarian aspect, the ergonomic aspect is there on this knife. These wide facets do give the Slab G10 a little more of a rounded sort of feeling in the hand. But it does give you the flat indexing, so the handle is not trying to roll or turn in your hand because it's too round. It's really often you see a design like this that you would consider a more extreme design, and then you get them in hand and they're not comfortable at all, guys, because it's design over function and feel, and that's not the case with this Will Arcturus Mini. I think, guys, that it's very appealing if it's what you want at that $55 price point. So there you go, guys. Thank you to Paulina at Will. Thank you to Will. Thank you to all of you who take the time to watch one of my videos. You are very much appreciated, very much so. God bless all of you, and we will talk to you again.